deportation part 2 for the Kenyan opposition figure MIGUNA MIGUNA. As we speak, he's sitting in the Dubai Departures Lounge after being bundled onto an Emirates flight overnight. In the meantime, earlier today, 3 top Kenyan officials were fined by the High Court for failing to release him from detention at the Jomo Kenyatta airport. More on that in a moment, but back to Mr MIGUNA himself. Now, he's been in the spotlight since he was charged with aiding the mock swearing-in of opposition leader Raila Odinga as the People's President in January. He was deported by the authorities then, who said he held only Canadian citizenship, saying he couldn't be a dual national. They seized his Kenyan passport. But Mr MIGUNA, for his part, refused to use his Canadian passport to re-enter Kenya this week on principle. After a 3-day standoff at Jomo Kenyatta, Mr MIGUNA was put on a flight to Dubai Airport, from where he's been speaking to Focus on Africa's Rob Wilson.
I am in an area where passengers sit near the immigration offices, which is in the arrivals area. The reason why I chose that place is because when I came in, I couldn't walk properly. So they gave me access to a doctor who looked at me. Unfortunately, these guys did not give me any documents. I don't even have my boarding pass. I don't know even what seat I sat at. Obviously, they brought me into the plane unconscious. And my real trouble is that the pilot took off with an unconscious patient who had not booked that flight, had no travel documents, and was not going anywhere. So essentially, the Emirates allowed itself to be used by the Kenyan authorities. They're saying they're ready to take me to Tanzania, they're ready to take me anywhere, but they cannot take me to Kenya. So on what basis would they take me to Tanzania, for example? I don't have a Tanzanian passport. And this is just egregious, absolute violation of my rights. And an airline is doing this.
We will be approaching the Emirates for an official response to that allegation that you mentioned. If I can just take you back to your situation currently in the airport in Dubai, you mentioned there were officials who have been with you. Who are they? Are they medical officials? Are they airport officials?
You see, when I came to, and that was when people were now getting out of the plane, that's when I woke up. I saw people getting out of the plane. There were still 2 people sitting just beside me. And it appears as if there were people who had come with me from Kenya. So I asked them, where are we? And they told me we are in Dubai. And I said, Dubai? They said, yes. I didn't know where my things are or anything like that. And so a guy came over to me. He was wearing a yellow Emirates jumper. And he's definitely a Kenyan. He speaks in Kiswahili. He's carrying a bunch of papers, and he says, those are my papers. I should follow him. I say, follow you to where? That he's taking me to the police. I say, no, I'm not going to the police. What have I done? I've not committed any crime. You brought me here illegally. You should be the one going to the police. So after some time, I told them I would need to see a doctor. So some officers from this airport told me that they would take me to see a physician. A nurse came, he took a triage, he took me to the clinic. The doctor did the tests, confirmed that, there were swellings and whatnot, and gave me a painkiller. And that's the extent to which I was treated.
What is the latest the authorities at the airport in Dubai have instructed you to do?
They're telling me I can walk around the airport and that's it. They're telling me I can't do anything else. They're telling me if I want to fly anywhere else, they would take me, but I will not go back to Kenya.
And what is your current situation in the airport with regards to food, water, a place to sleep if you need it? What's your situation?
There's no place to sleep. They have given me places to sit, which is just the normal places that passengers stay. They have given me tea, and there was a person from the Canadian embassy that bought me something from McDonald's. Then they told him he had to leave, so he left. There is no arrangement for food or anything. They have given me tea, that's it. I've not taken a shower since I left London on Sunday.
Miguna Miguna talking from Dubai Airport. And we contacted Emirates Airline for a comment, and they sent us the following statement. We do not comment on the travel details of individual customers. Emirates always abides by the rules and regulations of the countries we fly to. It's the responsibility of travellers to ensure that they possess and can produce the necessary travel documents for their journeys. Well, the Kenyan Interior Minister and the police chief have been fined for contempt of court. Fred Matiang'i and Joseph Boinnet, along with another senior official, have been asked to pay $2,000 after they ignored the High Court order to release Mr Miguna. So what's the government reaction to the fine? I called up Mwenda Njoka, spokesperson for the Interior Ministry.
The government has made a decision to appeal that decision because we feel that it is not the right decision. The government or the Minister for Interior the Principal Secretary for Immigration and Inspector General of Police were never heard. We tried to be heard to explain our case, but we were not given a chance.
Why did those officials not turn up at court?
Our lawyers were in court. The reason why people have lawyers is that they can send lawyers to court.
Because what it looks like from the outside is that some of the key officials in Kenya's government are not obeying the law.
No, we obey the law very clearly. There was a court order that said that we should be allowed in the country, but the court order did not dispense with the process of being allowed into the country. That process includes somebody presenting the documents that they used to board the plane. He refused to do that.
But did the court then not say you have to release Miguna Miguna?
The court did not dispense with the process of getting Miguna Miguna into the country. It did not dispense with that, and it cannot, because the law requires that you have to go through the due process. If you are told to commit an offense so that you can obey a court order, that's another process. Because in our opinion, by releasing him at that point in time, we would be also committing an offense of not taking him through the due process of being immigrated into the country.
But in the meantime, Miguna Miguna is in no man's land.
Well, in the meantime, Miguna Miguna is on his way back to where he came from because he refused to go through the process of being immigrated into the country.
But he then says you drugged him, that he was unconscious on the flight being taken forcibly to Dubai?
That is not so. I mean, those are just allegations.
Why have you reacted so strongly? I mean, Miguna Miguna, yes, he was an opposition politician saying some contentious things, but you could have just let him get on with that in the country. Why have you tried to do this in such a, what feels like a violent and extreme way?
No, it's not so. Actually, we were very, very civil with him. What was so difficult about him giving his passport to be stamped, to be admitted, to get into the country?
You're taking this to the Court of Appeal. If you lose,
yes.
I mean, should the Interior Minister then resign, given that he's appearing to go against what is Kenyan law?
We are not talking about issues of resignation and all that. As far as we are concerned, we did everything within the law, and the Minister complied with the laws of the country.
That was Mwenda Njoka, spokesperson for Kenya's Interior Ministry. The case marks a significant escalation in the row between the judiciary and the government that began during last year's disputed presidential election. That's when the Supreme Court annulled the results of the poll in August. President Uhuru Kenyatta at the time described the judges as crooks. Well, to discuss the issue more, I spoke to Edgar Kavulavu from the Kenya chapter of the International Commission of Jurists.
I don't think they will break any law, and I must say that two wrongs don't make a right. By violating Miguna's human rights to enforce another right is not fair at all.
And I mean, this seems to be a sort of case where, you know, one perception of it is that the Interior Ministry doesn't appear to be listening to the courts. Is that concerning?
It is very concerning because in Kenya there has been a history of the executive and other arms of the government disobeying court orders, and it is in the public domain that key government officials have disobeyed court orders in this particular case. So it is very worrying.
But I mean, the Interior Ministry, we just heard there, says we're going to take this to appeal to the appeal court. I mean, isn't that their right?
It is their right to appeal. And the issue that the officers were in contempt of court orders is not in contention. It is very clear. But every person, including the government, has a right of appeal.
I mean, some people have looked at this whole case and actually what's happened since August when the election results were annulled to say actually Kenya's judiciary is very strong and very independent. I mean, is that something that at least that we should be thinking about as a good thing?
It is a good thing that the judiciary had made strides in reforming itself before the elections. But when the presidential election were annulled, there were sentiments from the executive to the extent that they were going to revisit the actions of the judiciary. And what we are experiencing right now is the executive trying to twist the judiciary by disobeying some of these orders.
Edgar Kavulavu from the Kenyan chapter of the International Commission of Jurists in Nairobi, thank you very much. Residents of a village in Nigeria